Newsday here on Arise News. In light of the economic weakness Africa exhibits on the global arena, and with all the mediocre economic numbers individual African countries are producing annually at the moment, it bodies well for the continent to increase its negotiations and its trade within the world. If it does so as a bloc, then continue trading as individuals. Well, joining us now to discuss improving intra-African trade ahead of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is Admire Dube, a financial analyst in the UK. Admire, many thanks for joining us this afternoon. You wrote a brilliant article on intra-African trade ahead of the FTA, and I learned from that article that trade currently stands at 17% within Africa, which means that the majority of our exports are going out of the continent. What does this mean for us ahead of the AfCFTA? The first trade agreement is due to take place on the 1st of January 2021.
First off, thank you for having me along. First of all, I'd like to put it across that this is a very commendable initiative by the African heads of state to bring together the largest bloc since the inception of the World Trade Organization. And we're looking at an economy of in excess of 3.4 trillion. That is a very commendable thing by our heads of state. And then secondly, to bring your point where we speak of the intra-trade business within Africa, it's a very low number. We're looking at in excess of 18% marks if we're looking at the latest research that has been done. 18% of all exports by any African country are destined for a fellow African country, which means for every $10 worth of goods that are exported by an African country, only less than 20 cents of that, 20% of that ends up with another African country. So that needs to be dealt with and looked into.
All right, Admire, let's talk about the exports in Africa. Do you think we should ignore that majority of exports are going out?
No, we should not necessarily ignore that. On the contrary, we should actually be beneficiating our business, our industry, our exports, to the point where what we export has got a value, because whenever we export a raw material, it necessarily means we're also exporting jobs. And in this case, this African Continental Free Trade Area, its main gist is to concentrate on inter-trade within African countries. Yet we are not as much high in that business at the moment.
Admire, you're probably aware of the situation in Ghana, where Nigerians have been asked to pay $1 million to engage in retail trade. They can't, so their stores have been locked up. Now, the question is this not contrary to the objective and spirit of Africa Continental Free Trade Area?
That's what I'd like to believe, that this African Continental Free Trade Area is being brought in to remove such hindrances as the one you are citing from Ghana, because one of the foremost initiative of this entity is to remove barriers to entry for all businesses that are trading with each other on the African floor. For instance, customs tariffs. In fact, one of the main aims they put across in their terms of conditions that they are looking forward to eventually have a unitary customs union across the whole of the African continent.
Certainly, Admire, but I mean, would you personally say that looking at the AfCFTA, it's structured in a way where Africa is valued as a producer and an exporter rather than being seen as a marketplace, really, looking at it?
To quote from the article that you spoke about, which I wrote for the Southern African Times, in that article, if you notice, this initiative is making Africa as a whole a big market, which means it's looking at allowing goods to flow in. And it almost is more silent where it's concerned about the production and the export of goods. So in a sense, if you look at that article, I'm saying this bloc, or any such for that matter, it may necessarily be something else, should be a voice for Africa where they intercede, where Africa is looking to make exports to on the global arena.
All right, Admire, should we pursue only opening up borders and easier of transacting with each other and not have a thrust towards representation of Africa in foreign markets?
In fact, it would be folly to pursue a situation where we only trade with each other. For instance, if we look at our numbers at the moment, they are saying we trade with each other for just 17%. And the benchmarks, like if you look at the European Union, they're trading as high as 59%. 59% that's for Asia and 69% that's for Europe with each other. So at the moment, we are quite low. And the African Continental Free Trade Area, on the optimistic side, they're saying they are hoping to increase trade by a mere 50%, which means they're looking to bring it up to about 25 or 30%. That's still very, very low. So we definitely should look to a situation where we trade with one voice with the world.
Yes, indeed, Admire, you have preempted my next question, and that is the fact that Euro trade among themselves stands at 69%, Asia 59%. What should Africa be doing? I mean, aside, of course, you have mentioned the AfCFTA to increase, gain up on the 17% trade among themselves. What other things should they be doing to gain up on this figure of 17%?
In an ideal situation, we should have a situation where Zambia, their main product is copper. They should be beneficiating their copper into electrical goods. If you look at the Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, they are exporting a whole lot of cocoa. But are they producing as much chocolates, or is Zambia producing any electrical goods? They are not. And that also curtails the ability for those countries to export to a fellow African country. So in that case, the point is we have to industrialize to a point where we need each other's goods as African countries. Because at the moment, most of the goods that we produce are raw materials from the primary level, which we export to industrialized nations who then beneficiate them, add value, and then re-export back to us in Africa.
Certainly, and just before we let you go, Admire, I mean, it's one thing for us to open up our borders to each other. It's another thing for us to be seen and valued globally. How important is it? I mean, we're coming up to the elections of the new Director General of the World Trade Organization. How important is it for us to see an African, particularly Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, emerging as DG of the WTO?
It's vitally important because what are we without a voice? The point is it's a voice. In fact, like this bloc, it represents a 3.4 trillion economy. If this were a state, that would really catapult us to number 4 in the list of developed countries in terms of GDP, after China, USA, and Germany. So really, we really need a voice in that platform who's going to represent all that we stand for as Africa in terms of being one of the biggest producers of goods.
All right, we want to say many thanks to you, Admire Dube, for your time here on Newsday. Of course, a financial analyst in the UK, talking about the Africa Continental Free Trade Zone area.